Big chop. Now, if you're an experienced naturalista, this is probably one of the first phrases you came across when you were first deciding to go natural. And if you're not yet natural, you've probably heard this phrase dozens of times. Why? Because this is one of two ways that your journey can actually begin. Transitioning is another option that you can choose, but don't let that stop you from learning about the big chop process. Trust me, I know from personal experience that making the decision can be confusing, exciting, exhilarating, and scary. So for you not yet naturals trying to learn more about the big chop and its process, this is for you. In this video, I'll explain to you what the big chop is, how to prepare, the two ways you can perform it, and what you can expect afterwards. So what exactly is the big chop? Big chopping is the term the natural hair community uses to talk about the act of cutting off all of your relaxed ends and being left only with your natural, unaltered, beautiful hair texture underneath. Now, depending on how long you let your hair grow out or transition before you cut, yes, you can transition before you big chop, so you can be left with some hair. You could be left with a teeny weeny afro, which ranges from about 1/4 of an inch to 2 inches in length, or you could be left with less than an inch of hair to no hair at all. Sounds scary? Well, that makes sense because this idea makes many not yet naturals a little anxious since you're literally going from 0 to 100 real quick. Or I guess going from 100 to 0 would be more accurate. But don't worry, you're not the first person to decide to cut off all of their hair to go natural, and you won't be the last. If you're not surrounded by family and friends to support your decision, then you can feel a little alone, but rest assured, deciding to transition before you big chop is another option. Take me, for example. I transitioned for 9 months before I finally got up the courage to let my relaxed ends go. Now, this definitely wasn't easy for me since I got my first relaxer when I was 5 and I cut my hair when I was 17, but to this day, I feel like this is one of the best decisions I've ever made. Now, if you have thought about this a little bit and think it's something that you might be interested in, how can you make sure you're ready and sure you want to do this? Prepare yourself. Now, there are 5 things I think you should do to make sure you're fully prepared to do the big chop. And number 1 is research. You're already taking a great first step towards number 1 by watching my video. Thanks for watching and make sure you subscribe. But also, don't just watch my videos. Find out as much information as you can about natural hair in general. And you can do this by researching online, reading books, and even talking to friends and family. Having a good, well-rounded knowledge bank not only lets you know what you're getting into, but it makes you just feel a lot more comfortable too with the idea of just chopping all of your hair off. And I know doing all this research can seem really boring and tedious, having to read books and watch videos, but another good way is looking at pictures of yourself when you were younger if you didn't have a relaxer. This can give you a really good rough idea of what to expect from your hair texture-wise when you do finally cut it. Now on to preparing for the big chop. Item number 2, guesstimate your curl pattern. Having a rough idea of what your curls may be like can help you choose some fitting products beforehand. And this can prevent you from engaging in some pretty detrimental curl envy, which is just when you wish you had the curls of someone else. So be sure you do try to accurately guess your curl pattern just a little bit so you don't run into this issue. And like I said before, another good way, if you were natural when you were younger, you can look at old pictures to try and generate an idea of what your pattern might be like. Now, preparation item number 3, subscribe to YouTube bloggers. Of course, this is if you have access to internet, but watching YouTube videos is a great kind of like hands-on, not hands-on way of learning more about natural hair and actually seeing it in action. Just be sure you're following people with a hair pattern that is likely to be similar to yours so that you're getting helpful bits of information. Don't let this stop you from following curlies with different textures and curl patterns though. But if you are looking for tips and tricks, it's good to follow curl patterns that are going to be more similar to you. Preparation item number 4, save the date. Do you want to transition for a few months to get more new growth, or are you prepared to rock a fresh cut right this very second? Even those people who think they are ready to cut still usually need some time to prepare and need to set a date in advance just so they can have everything together for the date that they choose. So decide on the date you want to big chop so that you can prepare accordingly. And that leads us to our 5th and final item for preparation, which I think is actually one of the most important of the 5, which is just breathe. With everything going on from researching to trying to get your curl pattern and subscribing to a bunch of people on YouTube, sometimes we forget to just do this one simple thing. After you're feeling pretty mentally prepared, just take the time to sit back, recollect yourself, think it all through, and then just go for it. So now that you know a little bit more about what this whole going natural thing is about and what the big chop is and the 5 ways to prepare for it, think you might be ready to take the plunge? There are 2 ways that you can go about going natural, and the first is going to a professional natural hair stylist. Choosing to go to a professional for anything is never a bad option, and the same is true for big chopping, especially if you're feeling a bit shaky about doing it yourself. They can easily determine where the line of demarcation is, which is just where your natural hair begins, thus only cutting off the relaxed ends, and they can shape your fro into a nice cute little style afterwards. And the second option, of course, is to try doing it yourself. If you can't make it to a salon, doing it yourself is another great, not to mention free, option. Many naturals, including myself, have went this route because it's just as effective. The best way and easiest way to do it is to wet your hair beforehand, whether it's in the shower or if you spray it with a bottle, so you can easily tell the difference between the relaxed and the natural, and then just cut it that way. Now, if you've watched the video up to this point, thanks for sticking around. If you have, you're probably like, okay, now I have all this background information, but what can I expect afterwards? Well, honestly, how you respond to your big chop is just going to depend on you and how confident you were in performing it. However, quite honestly, if you've been relaxed your entire life, there isn't any amount of preparation or confidence that can fully prepare you for what you see looking back at you. Even if this isn't your first time big chopping and you have long natural hair and you're just cutting it to cut, you're literally turning yourself into a new person, and that takes time to accept. That being said, if you don't immediately love your hair after you cut it, here are 3 stages that I and many other naturalistas have went through afterwards that I like to call the 3 stages of relaxed hair grief. Number 1 is shock. It'll probably be a shock at first, a huge shock. You may regret doing it. You'll probably wonder what you were thinking, how could you do this, and will your hair even grow back? And yes, of course it will. Number 2 is a self-conscious stage. You might be self-conscious for a little bit, and that's okay. I mean, you've only ever really known yourself by the straight relaxed hair you used to have, and if you're cutting off a big fro, then you've gotten used to seeing that. So getting to know and love yourself with shorter hair will take some time. And the 3rd stage you might go through is what I like to call growth anxiety, and it's kind of tied into the self-conscious stage because you might start to feverishly Google ways or try and find quick fixes to make your hair grow back fast. And you could start idolizing the naturals with the big curly hair that you see in social media and in your everyday life. And while it's never a bad thing to admire other curls, you should use that admiration to motivate you, not depress you. And while it may seem like you might get stuck in one or all 3 of these stages forever, it'll wear off a lot quicker than you think, because once you cut your hair, you made that commitment, and the only way you can go is forward. You'll start to learn how to care for your new hair, and once you do, you'll realize this is one of the best decisions you ever made. You won't be able to keep your hands out of your hair. You'll be so excited about the newfound freedom you have, and you'll be amazed by what God has given you naturally that you've kept covered up for so long. You'll look back 1 week, 2 weeks, 1 month, 2 months from your big chop day and wonder what you were ever worried about, especially with all the new free time you'll have that you don't have to spend in front of a mirror trying to figure out how to do your hair. But remember, in order to reach this point, you have to know this is what you want to do. And to do that, you need to make sure you do your research, you prepare yourself, and that you know what to expect, basically all the steps in this video. Because even with any small doubts you may have, if you know this is what you want to do and you learn how to take care of your hair, you won't only love it, but you will also love yourself, and your hair will grow. It will have no choice but to grow if you know how to take care of it and you love it. But all of this can only be achieved if you choose to big chop your hair, so I hope this video persuaded you some. And I'm interested to know, if you're already natural and you're watching this, did you big chop to start your natural hair journey? Or are you a not yet natural thinking of big chopping? Please tell me about all of your concerns and experiences and questions in the comment box below. Plus, feel free to tell me what you thought of this little drawing video. If you liked it, if you didn't like it, if you thought it was kind of okay, I want to know. And that's the end of this video, guys. So like always, hit that like button if you liked it, hit it even if you didn't, leave a comment down in the comment box below, and make sure you subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. Bye.